I still remember the exact moment I
being out here
realized
with
I'd
you
been set
makes
up,
everything feel
standing in
just
that
a little bit
crowded
lighter.
coffee shop, watching her navigate through tables with careful, deliberate steps, one leg moving fluidly while the other followed with visible effort. My best friend Marcus had sworn he wasn't matchmaking, said it was just a casual group thing, but he'd mysteriously cancelled last minute, leaving me alone with a woman I'd never met. Emma arrived 10 minutes late, breathless and apologetic, her dark hair slightly disheveled from the wind. When she smiled, though, something in my chest tightened, not from pity, not from awkwardness, but from the genuine warmth that radiated from her eyes. I'd been tricked, yes, but as she sat down across from me, I had no idea that this deception would become the greatest gift of my life. The first hour passed easier than I'd expected. Emma was funny, sharp-witted, with a laugh that made other patrons turn and smile. She worked as a graphic designer, spoke passionately about obscure indie films, and had an encyclopedic knowledge of terrible 90s music that matched my own. We argued playfully about whether Titanic was a masterpiece or overrated melodrama. She ordered a ridiculous cinnamon roll the size of her head and offered me half without hesitation. For long stretches, I forgot entirely about the limp I'd noticed, about the way she'd braced herself against the table when sitting down. But she didn't let me forget for too long. "So Marcus told you, right?" she asked suddenly, wiping frosting from her fingers. I froze, coffee cup halfway to my lips. "Told me what?" Her expression shifted, amusement giving way to something more guarded. "About my condition. About the accident. He mentioned you'd been through something difficult," I admitted carefully. "He didn't give me details. Said it wasn't his story to tell." Emma studied me for a long moment, and I felt like I was being evaluated in ways I couldn't fully understand. Finally, she nodded. "Car accident, 3 years ago. Drunk driver ran a red light. My left side took most of the impact. I have limited mobility in my left leg, reduced sensation in my left arm. Some days are better than others." She said it matter-of-factly, the way someone might mention they prefer tea over coffee. "I do physical therapy twice a week. I probably always will. I'm sorry that happened to you," I said, meaning it. "Most people are." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes this time. "Look, Jake, I need you to understand something up front. I know Marcus means well, but I don't need a charity case. I don't need someone who's going to stay because they feel sorry for me or because they want to feel like a good person for dating the disabled girl. If that's what this is, we can finish our coffee as friends and call it a day. No hard feelings." The directness caught me off guard. I'd expected maybe deflection, maybe self-deprecating humor, maybe even vulnerability. Not this, not a challenge, not a boundary drawn so clearly in the sand. "Can I be honest?" I asked. "Please." When Marcus set this up, I was annoyed. I've had terrible luck with blind dates, like, spectacularly bad. I almost cancelled twice. I saw her lips twitch with amusement. "But sitting here with you, I'm having the best time I've had in months. Not because I feel sorry for you, I don't, for the record. But because you're hilarious and smart and you have objectively terrible taste in movies." She laughed at that. "If you're willing to give this a shot, I'd like to see you again. Not as charity. Just as two people who might actually like each other." She regarded me silently, and I wondered if I'd said too much, too soon. Then she smiled, really smiled, the kind that crinkled the corners of her eyes. "Okay, Jake, let's see where this goes." The following weeks unfolded like a montage from those romantic comedies Emma claimed to hate but secretly loved. We went to art galleries where she pointed out details I'd never have noticed. We had movie marathons where she fell asleep on my shoulder during the second film. We cooked dinner together in her tiny apartment, and I learned that she was meticulous about organization in a way that bordered on adorable obsession. But I also learned about the hard days. The mornings when pain flared up and even getting out of bed felt like an Olympic event. The times she pushed herself too hard and paid for it later, too stubborn to ask for help until she absolutely needed it. The phantom sensations that made her left side feel like it was burning or freezing are simply gone. One evening about 2 months in, I arrived at her place to find her on the couch, frustrated tears tracking down her face. Her medication wasn't working as well as it used to. A bad fall that morning had left her bruised and shaken. She'd had to call in sick to work, which made her feel unreliable and guilty. You can go, she said quietly, not looking at me. This is the reality, Jake. Some days I'm fun Emma who can pretend everything's normal. Other days I'm this, a mess who can't even walk to the bathroom without worrying I'll fall. You didn't sign up for this. I sat down beside her, slowly, giving her space to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. Remember that first day at the coffee shop? I asked. You told me you didn't want someone who'd stay out of pity. You were right, that wouldn't be fair to either of us. I took her hand gently. But Emma, this isn't pity. This is me choosing you. All of you. The good days and the hard ones. The days you make me laugh until my sides hurt and the days you need someone to just sit with you in silence. That's what caring about someone actually means. You say that now, she whispered. But what about later? What if it gets worse? What if I get sick? What if I lose my job? What if I develop some weird obsession with collecting porcelain cats? That got a watery laugh from her. Life doesn't come with guarantees, Em. All we have is right now, and right now, I want to be here. With you. If that changes, we'll talk about it honestly. But you don't get to make that decision for me based on what you think I can or can't handle. She finally looked at me, eyes red but searching. You're either incredibly kind or incredibly stupid. Can't it be both? She kissed me then, and it tasted like salt and hope and the kind of vulnerability that comes from letting someone see you at your worst and trusting they'll stay anyway. 6 months later, Emma moved into my apartment, the one with the wider doorways and the walk-in shower, better suited for her needs. We built a life that looked nothing like what I'd imagined when I was younger, but felt more real than anything I'd known before. We celebrated her victories. The day she walked a full mile without her cane, the promotion at work, the gallery show featuring her designs. We weathered the setbacks, the surgery that didn't help as much as hoped, the insurance battles, the well-meaning strangers who stared or offered unsolicited medical advice. People sometimes told me I was so good for being with Emma, as if loving her was some kind of sacrifice. I learned to smile politely and explain that I was the lucky one, that she'd taught me more about resilience, humor, and genuine strength than anyone I'd ever met. That being with her wasn't charity, it was choosing joy even when life was complicated. Marcus, the mastermind behind our first meeting, officiated our wedding 2 years later. In his speech, he admitted he'd been terrified we'd both hate him for the setup. Emma grabbed the microphone and said, "Worst matchmaker ever. 10 out of 10, highly recommend." As I watched her dance at our reception, moving carefully but confidently, surrounded by people who loved her, I thought about that first day. How I'd felt tricked, manipulated, pushed into something I hadn't chosen. I caught her eye across the room, and she grinned, that same warmth that had disarmed me from the beginning. Sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never saw coming. Sometimes love isn't about grand gestures or perfect circumstances. Sometimes it's simply choosing to stay, to see someone fully, to build something real in the messy, beautiful, complicated space between two imperfect people. I'd been tricked into meeting Emma. But falling in love with her? That was the easiest choice I ever made.